The last few weeks, Chuck and I have dug a little bit deeper on nutrition as well. You know, when people talk about addictions, they normally talk about alcohol, drugs, sex, the things that are, you know, the most obvious. But there are drugs that people are addicted to every day in our nutrition that people don't talk about and don't realize. They get that dopamine hit every time they eat some pizza, pasta, have something sugary. All of those things, in my opinion, if you were to drink a glass of wine 1 or 2 times a week compared to the food that most people are eating every day, all day, I would say they're doing far more damage with that than with the
Okay, so
odds in a glass of
nutrition I
wine from time
compare
to
to
time.
diet. And with diet is
What
not just
part does
food.
nutrition play
So
in your
to your point,
discussions with people?
when you are absorbing any type of food or drink, you have to be aware of how clean is it. So if you have a bottle of wine that you just took from Italy and you pop the cork, I guarantee you it hasn't been processed. It's pure. It's right there from the earth. It's from the vine, right? So that is great. It's just like with water. How filtered is it? How clean is it? How many chemicals have they added in to clean that water? Or is it a natural spring water? Is it just right there from that spring that you're taking a sip? So it's how clean is it? And when you're reading, I will encourage people to say this is that when you're eating things that have the dyes in them and they're all like enriched grains, these are artificial. They're processed the same way of putting lotion on your face or putting any type of cream on your body or even the shampoo that you add to your hair. That to me is all nutrition because the skin on your face, the skin on your body is the biggest organ. So if you're putting harmful substances onto your body and you're not using natural things like 100% essential oils, if you're not using that pure castor oil, if you're not using, tomatoes in that sauce and you have all this added sugar, things that are just not healthy for you, all the gluten and all that, what it does is it's going to first off create a brain fog. Your brain isn't going to neurologically work the way that it needs to work in order to signal you when something isn't right. If I eat, let's just say something that I'm unaware of that has a high level of sodium, instantaneously, I'm tired, I'm lightheaded, and I need to go to sleep. And instantaneously, I'm like, oh my gosh, what did I just do? What did I just do? I was unaware and I allowed that to happen. And now my body feels lethargic and sick because I have conditioned my body to cleanse so much through the energy work that the minute that I put, let's just say, like you said, a drink in my mouth that I'm sipping on that has syrups in it and fake juice, that is going to have a very different reaction than if I have something that is 100% pure juice, 100% cane sugar, and the natural substances. Which one's going to affect me better? I'm going to be able to get the enjoyment out of the one that's more pure, and that's not going to give me the headache and the sickness and that lethargic energy, the headache, the way that this is. So you're dealing with poison, right? Because alcohol is poison. So you're taking away the oxygen and the water from surrounding your brain. But if you're using it in a more purified manner, a clean manner, then it's not necessarily going to naturally have that effect on you. If I get talking about alcohol and things like that, that's a whole spiritual conversation that I would go into a whole nother realm. So I'll save that for another day. But just pure and simply, I think that your diet absolutely holding energy that is unhealthy is going to breed a lack of discernment, a lack of clarity, very impulsive responses, angry responses. You see it in the foods that we give our kids if they are eating all this stuff that is so bad for them and it's not being taken care of. That's where you see a lot of these different diseases or disorders happening. And they're happening at a much younger rate because they're starting off with the microwave. They're starting off with a microwave instead of cooking it on the stove. Fast, quick and fast. So it's easy. It's a lazy behavior, and laziness and health do not go together.
Mm.
If you're sitting still, there's an intention and there is a focus. You're still not doing nothing. You can do a lot sitting still and being intentional, right? So your diet is.
Yeah. Yeah. Actually, yeah. I was just in Italy last week and I did try some natural wine from a village that came directly from the vineyards. It's a completely different story. The taste and how it makes you feel, even after one glass, like there's something different about it. And it's not about feeling tipsy or anything. It's actually something that makes you feel connected to nature and appreciate the efforts and the hands that have gone into to making this, to crafting it for you. And it's not even in a
Yeah,
bottle.
you
It comes in
poured
a
love
carafe
into
to the
it. That's the
table. You know,
thing.
this is the
Have you
house
ever
wine that
sat
they
there and
brew
had
in
a
a
meal at
vineyard.
a
Like
restaurant
that's a
and it's
completely
supposed to be like
different
this
experience to
top-notch
buy something
restaurant
off
and
the
it tastes
shelf
like,
at
and you're
Walmart
like,
or something.
whatever's going on back there, I don't want any part of it. I don't want any part of it because they got something going on back there. There's no love in it. When you're in a situation where you could have a whole house full of people and you got your grandmother or your mama or your wife or your husband or whatever in there cooking for you, if they're in a peaceful state, that food's going to taste amazing regardless of what it is. It's because they're putting love into it. It's the same thing. You can use Reiki and put it on the food. Like I said, I bless the food with the shokure symbol every single meal. I do it every single time because if there's something that's in there that is not going to serve me well, then push it out of my body immediately. That's what you're doing. You're blessing it so that it can come out of you and the good things stay and the things that need to go.
Aaron, how do you? Sorry, recently, I've become found Jesus, right,
I
throughout
do
this
have
experience as well, and a big
sorry,
part
Chuck.
of
No, no, go ahead, go
my
ahead.
mind has been how do you connect these two worlds? You talk about God a lot, which I love because I'm really starting to understand Him. I'm really starting to understand Jesus and the stories in the Bible. Before I had a construct that Bible and the religions were, a man's construct instead of
Hmm.
true spiritual stuff. But the more and more I learn about the Bible and the stories, the more I'm starting to believe, right? The more I do believe. For Christians and Catholics and anyone that's religious, whatever religion it is, that might be listening to this, how do you introduce them to this world of energy and Reiki and not make it feel like it's blasphemy for them?
Oh, Chuck, I love you for asking that question. I really do. And that's a very, very, it's a complex question, but I'm going to try my best to simplify it. So I was raised Catholic. I never felt comfortable. I never felt comfortable going. I went into every type of church, every type of faith-based situation that you could think of at a young age. My mom was very open to that. She was basically saying, basically taste and see. Go and see what it's like and see if this works. I eventually came back to my Catholic roots when I got pregnant with my first daughter, my first child. And I did that because it was safe and I understood it. And I understood that when it comes to Jesus, the name Jesus was not the man's name. It was definitely a creation. However, the name Jesus means the anointed one. So by using those letters, which create sounds, right? Those vibrations of that sound, God is the sound. God is the breath. So when you say certain words, you activate a power. So when you say, I love Jesus, in Jesus I trust, the name Jesus carries a certain vibration. But the man was Yeshua because that was more, there's certain letters that weren't in that alphabet that
Hebrew.
was more in that Roman time frame, right? So they didn't have that in the Hebrew alphabet. So it was Yeshua. Yeshua actually stems from I am. All right. When you break it down, it means I am. So when you say either one, all right, there's a strong meaning there. With Yeshua, because I'm going to refer to him by that, no offense to Jesus, it's the same. So with Yeshua actually, as a young boy, was raised in the Essene of belief system, and the Essenes were a group of people that actually were known to be vegetarian and that they communed with angelic beings, which is more along that starseed or extraterrestrial idea. All right. So When we think about this, just taking it into a very different realm here, is understanding that the Essenes were very blessed people because they kept their bodies very light in order to transmit that energy the same way that Reiki is transmitted. So they actually taught these different elements of the Hermeticism, hermetic practices, alchemy, and things like that. Jesus was raised with the Essenes. His mother was raised as an Essene. And so in that belief system, in those areas, at the age of 12, you don't ever hear about Jesus in the Bible.
Right.
So where did he go? Where did he go from that 12 to like 33 age? The numbers mean something. So if you take that time frame, what we have learned through a lot of different breakdowns is that the family actually traveled around and Jesus actually learned these different practices. Jesus learned Reiki. He learned that. He learned about the dark arts because you have to understand the dark in order to fight the dark. You have to understand it within in order to understand it outside of yourself. So when you think about the battles that this individual human being went through at the time frame, it was unheard of. It was unheard of. And the Essenes also allowed the women, which was not done in that area ever, allowed the women to be prophetess. They honored women the same way they honored men. So they actually put them at the same. Whereas when the church and everything got involved, they would say, oh, she's a harlot, which translated to a prostitute. So then you have that Mary Magdalene figure coming through.
Right.
Mary Magdalene was also an SNA. So she was raised in it because she was orphaned and they took her in. Yeshua walked with a prophetess, somebody that wasn't respected because she had capabilities that weren't respected coming out of the mouth of women. So see, he walked with all these individuals, all these disciples, the apostles, they all carried certain abilities that just worked with his belief system. And he would travel and he would work with that. The biggest part is understanding, if you look in the Bible, all right, because this is what you're referring to, Jesus would say, cast your energy to the right to let it go. Well, what side did I say we release?
Interesting. Okay.
When Jesus is in those old ancient pictures, is he doing this? This is the Shokure beginning. When you would see this symbol, that is the Shokure. He's sending long distance energy out. And he had such a beautiful quantum field around him that he had purified himself into that godly state where basically God said, I am anointing you to be the representative for mankind.
Mm-hmm.
You already had representatives in other cultures that were basically identical with the same energy, but they were called Krishna or they were called Buddha, but they were all anointed beings that all taught the same basic principle. Cleanse yourself. Only believe in the one. Only believe in the one. Trust me. Watch me. Look at the way I live. I am the truth. I am the way. If you follow the way that I do things and you do the things that I'm showing you through me, you will make it to that heavenly state. You will be one with God. You can do this yourself. There's a lot of healings that he would do on people. And what would he say? Go wash yourself. That's a spiritual bath. That's a spiritual cleansing. He would do things without having to touch people because if you are really good in an alignment, I don't have to touch you. I can send it to you. I can light a candle and say, God is light. God is source. That is light. Light is the highest frequency. So if I use things and I'm doing things and I'm setting the intention to do them, I can only serve one master. And if my master is pure and my master is, I'm only going to concentrate on what they need, because your belief system might be different. It doesn't matter what the belief system is because I am doing it the way it's designed for you. So that is how Yeshua practiced. Yeshua did not love the church. He'd flip over tables. He'd make temples crumble because the idol was the temple. The idol was the priest. The idol was all of these fictitious things. The idol was money.
Mm-hmm.
The idol was the false ideology of whatever it is that people worship. But Yeshua, Jesus never said, worship me. Yeshua said, follow me, do as I do, and you will see the truth and you will connect to God. You will do this. But that is where I say, if people really learn about this, then they will understand that that's what Jesus was always saying is go inside. This is your church. This is your temple. Keep your temple clean.
Yeah.
Don't eat unhealthy things. Don't say unhealthy things. Don't wish harm onto people. The devil is you. The devil is you. If you are tempted and you are swayed and you are easily impulsive and falling into that category of superficiality, then you have now become that alter ego.
Yeah.
And so you have just given free will away. The
Jesus
minute that you
Jesus
take the
just did a thumb
power,
up.
you own it. Yeah.
Jesus just did the
So
thumbs
funny.
up for you.
Yeah.
I know we went way over. This has been amazing. If you like what you're listening to and you want to subscribe, click subscribe so that way we can come up in your feed next time we have another episode. We're going to do this every single week. Take a look at our sponsor company, Studio Sweat On Demand. Take a look at risingwithaaron.com because she's amazing. I could protest or confess personally that she is amazing. And we have a new saying. Look at that. That's
Love it.
my little dinner picture from last night. We have a little saying that we want to end the show with, but beforehand, you know what's come to me a few times and I wanted to ask, and I don't want to push you on the spot, Aaron, but I got to ask it. I got a feeling that something or someone has come to you during this session, either for Ed or for me, and that you've been wanting to bring it up, but you felt like it was too funny to bring up or too awkward to bring up. Is that true?
So I would say this is that it's interesting because I always get messages even when I'm talking or if I'm listening. There's a whole air traffic control. If you go and look at, that's the way I describe it. I would say when it comes to Ed, I felt drawn to when I watched things before where I actually had a very elderly woman stepping up. And she was actually telling me that she was like very motherly to you and that she took you in and that she cared for you and that she is so extremely proud of you because of walking away from something that I guess the way that she says it is that it made a lot of money for you. And she's saying, I deeply appreciate you doing that because you are honoring your integrity and you are honoring yourself and you make me proud every single day. Every single day. And she sends love to your wife. She sends a lot of love to her. She says, oh, she puts up with so much. She puts up with so much. But your wife also needed you. And that was a part of the reason why you left. And so she loves you. And a lot of your ancestors actually received a lot of healing from you. And they're very grateful for the sacrifices that you've done because you were the black sheep. You were the one that stuck out like a sore thumb. And that's why you travel. That's why you do a lot of the things that you were getting away from that. And she's very grateful. A lot of the people, a lot of the men that had a lot of trauma with them that you carried, you have shed so much of it. And by doing so, it hasn't passed on. It hasn't continued into your family. And I also see a male, and I think it might be, do you have a son? That there's a lot of love and guidance that is around him. So you know this, but I'm basically getting told by her that you have nothing to worry about him and he's doing big things. Okay? Doing big things. And that your wife is never going to have to worry about sickness. Okay?
Okay. Perfect.
Earlier on, I was going to share just a quick Reiki story. Chuck, do you have time? Actually, my mum, she She was back in the 1980s. She was an aerobics queen. She would be up on stage teaching group exercise aerobics to people all throughout Australia and around the world. So she was quite famous, and she loved to be that person that was, sharing her positive energy with other people. And she studied Reiki. And a few years ago, I had a day that was one of the most traumatic days of my life. It was during COVID time. I've been living in China for many, many years. And in 2021, I met Livia. She's now my fiance, wife to be. I met her like in March. In April, my work visa was due to be renewed. And for people that don't know, when you're living in China, it's something you need to do every year. It's very, very strict. Like there's a lot of things you need to prepare, including all of your financial, your tax, your living
Good for you.
documents.
I'm glad you're doing
There's
that.
a lot of things to prepare. But what happened is during COVID, my visa is done in Shanghai. That's where I am now. Actually, the reason I'm in Shanghai is to renew my visa tomorrow. I met Livia in March. The moment I met her in a Starbucks. Like I happened to be passing through the city for 2 hours. I sat in a Starbucks. I saw her. We just started talking immediately. I think both of us knew this is the person that we're going to spend this life journey with. The problem was during COVID time, I was in Guangzhou and my visa is in Shanghai. So we were locked down for quite a few months. That means that my visa expired. Now, if you're a foreigner in China with an expired visa, that means that you're an illegal immigrant. Basically, it's criminal. You're not allowed to do it. There's daily fines, and you basically will get kicked out of the country and banned for 5 years. So I had this complicated situation where a month later I was able to travel to Shanghai, and I faced this moment of reckoning at the immigration office where I had to explain to them I was locked down in another city, my visa expired, blah, blah, blah. No. Essentially what they said to me is your visa is cancelled. You have 30 days to leave the country and you'll be blacklisted for 5 years. Now, this is a month after I met the lady of my dreams. So I'm in that office. I'm trying to speak to different people. I'm frantically walking around, there was so much stress just brewing inside of me. I'm walking around. And I just stopped for a moment and I just looked up and I just took a breath and I said, tell me what to do. I don't know who I was talking to. Tell me what to do. Now, at that moment, my phone rang. I got a message on my phone. It was my mum. She said, Ed, what's going on? I can feel something. Like within seconds of me asking her. And I told her the situation and, I was literally crying. I was thinking, at that time, I'm in my early 50s and I thought I finally met the person I want to spend the rest of my life with and I'm going to be kicked out of the country, which means that we cannot be together or it's very, very complicated if we were to be. So Biba, my mum, she just said, calm down, focus, think about what can you do? What do you need to do? And I said, well, there's a guy behind the closed counter that was just sitting there. He was maybe on his break or something. So I got off the phone. I went and tapped on the window and the guy opened a little blind and he talked to me and I told him my situation and he gave me some advice, which is really, really helpful. He said, this is the main immigration office for Shanghai. This is where all the foreigners come. So here is very systematic, the way everything is done. It's black or white. Yes or no, approved or not. He said what you can do is go to the local police office where your company is registered and speak to the police officer there. So I traveled around Shanghai. I went to that police office. They gave me some advice. I had about 5 hours before the police office was going to close. I had to go to another part of the city to do something at the bank, go see my accountant, print out documents. There was a lot of things I had to do. It was the most productive day for an intense day to actually, the volume of stuff I had to do. The entire time I never said one word to Livia. She had no idea this was happening. But in my mind, I'm thinking this is my last and only chance to save this chance of my life to be with this person. And finally, I went to the police office and there was a beautiful, kind lady police officer that was there. She was pregnant and she had a beautiful energy about her. And I just sat down with her and I said, and I was crying. I said, look, this is my situation. I've prepared all these documents. I've been told I got 30 days to leave the country. Can you help me? And she said, she looked at my documents and she said, I know the police officer that cancelled your visa. She knew the guy that signed the document that said cancel the visa. She said, I'll give him a call. And so that lady basically saved my life. She called that guy. He was going against protocol to reverse the decision. And to cut the story to the end, finally it was approved. And later on, I told Livia the story. She said she had no idea. And at that moment, she cried as well because she realized that she had found someone that was willing to move mountains to be able to make this work. And so every year I come to Shanghai now to do this process. I always have this anxiety and the memory of that time. Like this is now the third, or
can I say
maybe the
something
third or
really
fourth
quick?
time now since that first
I
happened.
want to say,
But I prepare
switch
everything.
over
I've got
because
all
see,
the
you're
documents
not.
here.
It's not anxiety.
For
It's
weeks
excitement.
in advance, I prepare everything.
You
So
you
when I
love the
show up to the
adrenaline that's
appointment
coming
tomorrow,
from that
everything's
because
fully
you know
prepared.
you got it together.
But
But it's that if factor that's exciting, you know. And a lot of people will get into the habit of saying, "Oh my gosh, I have anxiety," and it's like, no, you're excited of the unknown. You're excited. So if you chant that instead of the anxiety, different mental state gets created. But go ahead.
Yeah. No, it's very true. Yeah. Yeah, that's right. I don't really have a fear. It is just, I know I need to go to the process. And last year when I showed up to the appointment, I prepared everything in a ring binder with a cover page with everything listed. You know, this is the bank statements, this is the tax records. And when I handed it over to the officer, they're like, oh my God, I've never seen anything like this before. Like they were so impressed. Yeah.
Yeah, it's
So,
like, oh
yeah,
yeah,
like
look at me. I
let's say
got
I need
this.
to,
I got
let's
y'all.
say they require us
You
to
know?
prepare A, B,
It's
C,
fun.
but I
It's fun.
prepare A to Z. Like I go over and above. So yeah, maybe there is some adrenaline and excitement there in this process. Yeah. But that moment when Biba, my mum, called me, it was just a moment where I was able to just suddenly just
Got that.
stop and take a breath and then look around. And it's like in that movie, The Matrix, where everything goes into slow motion. It was in that office and I looked around in slow motion and then I identified a person I need to go and speak to. And then from there, everything. Yeah. So it's amazing how clear and how much clarity you can have when you really push yourself, when you take everything else out of the way and just focus on that one thing. You are absolutely unstoppable. And I think that's a good message for everybody. Chuck as well. Like Chuck has been unstoppable on this journey because he has no doubt in his mind of the outcome.
Absolutely.
And I guess
Chuck
I do as well. I know what the outcome is.
It was beautiful because now he gets to go and enjoy his ceremony.
I know it's going to be okay.
That he wants to do.
Being so laser focused
a lot of the times,
to
like
do
the
it
same thing. Like I think
that is quite
part of the process where I had said before, you know, it's very important for people to be wowed first, to have that faith activation of, oh my gosh, how did they know that? That is the same thing with him. You know, Chuck had that wow moment when he didn't at first connect the dots when I said, no, it's a plane. I see a plane. It's not driving. It's not a boat. I see a plane. And I'm not going to change my story just to make it valid. This is what I see. And he started to dig, right? Mm-hmm. So then when I said, okay, this is a Brazilian person, there's a Brazilian person. And he said, oh yeah, that right there opened up the mind to a different outcome, a different possibility. It fed what he really wanted. And so it was like, boom, same thing with you. Your mother being able to pick up on that energy that you had asked and you shall receive. You know, if you ask for it, it will come. So she wowed you and it got your attention because it was something that you were not expecting. You were in a moment of total disarray, spiraling out, not being able to calm down and find your peace. And she gave you a wow moment to therefore open your mind to believe in something outside of just that reality. You had a supernatural experience, and people take that little, like I said, that little thing, they don't pay homage to that or they don't give credit to that as being the thing that actually sparked that shift. She assisted you with what you chose to do, something different than what you normally did in your time of disarray. You called out for help. Help was given immediately. And you were like, oh my gosh. So right then and there, that floored you. That was like, oh my gosh, how could that have happened if this isn't for me? If this isn't for me, how could that happen? So it's the spirit. It's spiritual. Everything that actually really matters is not done in this world with matter. It's done with your quantum field. It's done with the energy. It's that energy connecting to God. So it has nothing to do with the matter. People can be in the material and it's a lot harder. But if you get out of that material and you get more into that spiritual development and connection that you did, that's when the door is open. But you did that. You had to choose to say, I need help. I can't do this on my own. That's all that God wants. Like swinging a bat. When are you going to stop swinging the bat? Just put the bat down and say, all right, make it happen. That's what God wants. God wants you to stop swinging. Let me do the work.
It was interesting before you mentioned that, like, you've got Jesus, you've got Buddha, you've got like all different types of belief systems. And me having lived in China for almost 20 years, I'm exposed to a lot of traditional Chinese medicine. And one of the reasons I absolutely love living here is the immersion of the thousands and thousands of years of wisdom and tradition that is practiced here. You know, you see the people doing their Tai Chi practice and meditation and breathing and things like that. Things that are like in Western countries, they're like you go to a wellness center and you can do meditation. But here it's part of daily life. Like it's something that is part of the life here. And, you know, because we are an international organization and this podcast is going globally as well, I think it is important to make sure that we cross over all of those boundaries. You know, when we're talking about God or Jesus or belief systems or religions and things like that, we are talking about, you know, the universe as a whole, right? Put a name or a title on it. Even you said that Jesus was not his name. It's the sound, right? So I think that's really, really important.
Well, think about like
you know,
what you
to
what
make
you were
sure
just saying.
we're not
In simple form.
we're
If
not
we're all one, and if God is the Alpha
disregarding
and the
any
Omega, and
belief
there is no
systems at all,
beginning or
because
no
like
end,
you
and
said,
God was
they all
God
essentially
created, right? God
follow
created
the
it.
same
Why
protocol,
would God create
right? They maybe have
anything
different names for it.
and not destroy it if God didn't want it there? You have choices. You have choices and you are going to be accountable for those choices, but I'm giving you the choice. And whatever it is that you choose, you know, there is God in it. Whether you think it's evil or whether you think it's good, God allowed it. God allowed it to be created, right? So there's a purpose for everything. And that's like with the Chinese, it's the yin and the yang. You have to have the light and then you have to have the dark. You have to have the struggle in order to have the blessing. So with every single person, whether you like them or agree with them or not, it's your responsibility to love them as you love yourself. Because if you have hate towards anybody for any reason, you have it here because we're one. You know, so you create that judgment within yourself when you're casting it on someone else. And that is what Yeshua taught. Yeshua did not judge anyone. Yeshua would say, look, don't beg me. You know how. I've taught you how. But don't beg me for love and forgiveness. Like, you know what you need to do. He was the biggest spokesperson on accountability, but he loved everyone. And so, regardless of what people choose to practice, that's not your jam. That's not your responsibility. Mm.
It's interesting you mentioned that the yin and yang symbol.
Yeah.
You see, even though there's white on one
100%.
side, there's a
How
little bit
can
of
you
black
become
inside
better
it. So
if you haven't
even
gone
in
through
the
a
light,
struggle?
there's a little bit of darkness.
How are you
And
going to
even
be
in the
grateful for
darkness,
your
there's always
health
a little
if
bit
you
of
haven't been
light.
tested with it?
And that's something that a lot of people
If you
didn't realize
get
or
sick, it's
miss
because
when
you
they
chose to
when
get
they
sick.
talk about this symbol.
You
So
chose to
that's
get
important
sick.
to know.
However that might have happened, you chose to go through that and you needed that lesson. So if you take that away and you find the light in it, you find the lesson or the blessing in it, you'll get better. It's only when you are making a conscious decision to be the victim that you're not going to grow beyond that. And so when you leave this physical vessel, we don't die. We just transmute. Our energy just goes back to our creator, to God, and we learn more and you're going to continue to learn more. Some people don't believe in reincarnation. I'm a firm believer that why would God recreate us? The reason why God recreates us is we are recreated in God's image until we become godly. And then we are one. And you don't have these issues, you don't have these problems, you don't have the sickness. But majority of the time, that means you're a monk sitting on top of a mountaintop pretty much by yourself. Because any attachment that you have is going to create some type of a struggle. But it's finding that purpose in that darkness. It's finding the purpose and then using that to help other people around.
Yeah. And I think if you look at just the cycle of biology, like the biology of plants,
Yep.
every new
And that's
plant
where, like,
comes from a seed of a plant,
and that's where,
of
like,
another
the
plant, or a
nature
plant that's
faith, like,
died.
I'm a
Humans
part
are
of
exactly the
Ifa.
same.
Ifa is a
Everything
Yoruba,
is
it's
a
an African
is
faith,
a
and I'm
it
pretty
is
sure you've probably heard
a
of it.
constant
And do I do it all the
lineal
time? No, because I had to
progression that never
outgrow
ends
the
until
dogmatic
the day.
aspect that a lot of that is sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes pushed. And it's pushed to help people in whatever way they need to be helped. But for me, I will use the natural, I will use a lot of that belief system because it is more accepting of universal. Anything that's very accepting that I can connect the dots to, I'll say, I can use that in this situation. I can use that. And it is not against my other belief systems. It's right there in par. It's what you choose to do with it. When you think of angel, Archangel Michael being like, that's my dude. That's my energy, right? Because it's not male or female, but Michael is my guy. And so my protecting energy, if I call on that, I understand that that's not all peace and love. That's not that energy. Angels are energies that are very balanced, right? So if you look at anything, you'll always see the duality. It's how you're using it. It's how you're using it. So if I wanted to go and say, I'm going to use this source, for healing or whatnot, I still understand that the power is within me and that it's only going to come from God. If I use all these other things, they're just tools. And tools are meant to be put down when you become one with yourself and you have the best tool. It's only in the time of great need that you should be outer dependent at all. And that outer dependence should only help you to become more independent and one. It's not a worshiping, it's not an idolatry. It's literally, hey, I need this holy water, so I'm gonna just, do what I gotta do, or I'm gonna use this essential oil, or I'm gonna use this selenite because it's the highest frequency stone that I can use to kind of clear and change the energy. Great. These are all great, but they're not necessary. They're not necessary if you actually know how to shift your energy and connect. And once you do that, you are the greatest tool because you become one. You become the creator. You understand that everything happens for a reason, whether you like it or not. You are not the one that knows best. God knows best. So if I have faith always, I'm always good. But it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to use these things as long as you're not thinking that this is God. Like this is it. This is all that there is. No, that's incorrect. This is an idol at that point. But if you're using it for the crystallization structure that is matching a crystallization structure inside of you that you understand scientifically, that's what it's doing. Cool. Just like medicine, just like anything. It's like, don't think that that's the solvent because it's not. It's not. And anybody that says it is, they just need a little bit more understanding. That's it. But I was one of those people that I used to think, oh, this, that, and the other, this is going to fix that. No, only you can do that. Look forward to going everywhere. I want to go to China. If I could go to China, I'd be on a trip right now to go. I love the Asian culture. That's
We need
actually
to
where I
invite you to
started
China. I think
with
you can have a
loving Asian
fantastic
people,
audience here
Asian
that would love
culture.
to be able to learn from you.
I love language, and I really never was fitting well in my skin. I never enjoyed being the race that I am or the American that I am until I got to understand why. I got to understand why, and I understood that karmatically, you become what you hate. If you don't love something, that is what you eventually will become, because God wants you to experience it fully, and then you grow to understand, and now there is no more hate. So in other lives, I can guarantee you I was not of Caucasian ethnicity, and that I was incarnated in this body to learn how to understand this experience and to see it from a different perspective. And if people just understood that, okay, if you don't like the Democrats or you don't like the Republicans, if you don't figure out that you need to be an independent thinker, then you're going to be so far here or so far there, you're missing the point. You know what I mean? So it's like you have to broaden your scope and look at it from that godly perspective, that if God created these things, figure out the lesson. Don't hate, don't judge, don't do that. What is it? You turn the other cheek, and you constantly turn the other cheek, and you constantly involve yourself in understanding it, having the deep conversations with listening with love instead of trying to prove your point. By doing that, the identity will go away. And now we're a one. I have to love you. I have to. If I don't love you, there's something inside of me that I'm not loving. I don't have to like you. I don't have to like you. I don't have to like all these things that you're doing, but I can respect you. I can still love you where you're at because I've been there in whatever way, shape, or form. But once I got to that point, that is that, oh, I want to travel here. I want to go there. I want to spread this message. I want to heal people. That is the goal. Ultimately, it's the goal, because there's so many false narratives. There's so many false narratives that are projected at people because they are not educated, not cultured, and not capable sometimes of being able to put themselves in those circumstances. And if they did, they would have a completely different perspective, and they would see the truth instead of just the lie that you're being conditioned to believe or programmed to believe. Oh, China is so awful. Why do you think they're telling you that?
Yeah. Yeah, it was 2007. I came over here for the first time, and I realized I'd been lied to my whole life. And I thought, if I've been lied to about this, then I've probably been lied to about many other things as well, from the powers that are designing our lives for us. So if we don't design our own lives, someone will design it for us. And I think I'm very happy and pleased to be interacting with people who have designed their own life, choosing their own journey, and having an open and aware mind to just continue to learn. Many, many years ago, I studied martial arts. And I did it for quite a few years. You go through all of the belts and you get to your grading or your test for a black belt. And it's very, very difficult. You need to run a half marathon first. And then as soon as you arrive back to the dojo, you change your gear. And then you need to start fighting with people that did not run a half marathon. So you are completely exhausted and you're sparring against people that are not. It's very, very difficult. And it goes for about half a day. At the end of it, you're completely exhausted mentally, physically, emotionally. And my sensei, when I'm kneeling down in front of him and he's holding the black belt in front of me, this is after 10 years of training, mind you. He said to me, "Ed, what's the meaning of the black belt?" And I said, "The meaning of the black belt is that I've learned everything and now I can start to teach other people." And he said, "No, you do not understand the meaning of the black belt. Go away for 1 year and come back, try again." Now, I was very angry. I was a young, angry man at this stage. I did not show up to class for 4 months. I was really, really upset about it. And then after 4 months, I decided to go back. I walked in after 4 months and I just started training. I never said a word. My master never said a word to me. And I put all of my heart and soul into training for that rest of that year, until a year later when it came time for the black belt again. And we went through the grueling test. At the end,
wise man knows that they know nothing.
And he asked me the exact same question: "What's the meaning of the black belt?" And I said, "The meaning of the black belt is now my mind is open and I'm ready to learn." He said, "You got it." Yeah. And so, yeah. And as I go through each decade of my life, this is exactly what I realized, that the more I know, the less I realize that I don't know. And so I'm not judgmental at all now. I used to be when I was young. I used to have my own opinion on things because I thought I knew everything. But now I'm completely open to everything. And it's made my life very calm and very peaceful and very happy to be like this and have great relationships with everybody that I meet. I basically travel the world now and do the wellness business and help people to live healthy and happy lives. That's my job. Like every day, it's something that's I absolutely love to do. And it's also thanks to this gentleman, Chuck, as well, that's offered a great opportunity and platform to be able to work together with him. And we're evolving the business. A few years ago, this business was a fitness business. It was a technology business selling fitness classes for people to watch online. But now
and
the
you can
business
feel
is
it.
evolving with
Like
us.
I said,
As we evolve
you
and
can
grow,
feel
the
the
business is evolving
authenticity,
with us as well.
you
It's
know,
becoming
and the
something
highest forms of
completely
vibration that
transformative
people can
and
tap
new
into to really
and
promote
meaningful
their spiritual
for us
awareness,
and
their
for the
spiritual
people that
gifts is
that we're partnering with as
authenticity,
well.
gratitude, and love. Those top three, because when you know who you are, it doesn't matter what is said about you, you still know who you are. You know why you are the way you are. And so you don't get insulted. You don't have to get defensive. It's just you're allowing other people to express themselves. And then when you listen, you can pay homage to that. And, you know, it's just such a beautiful flow because you are genuinely being present. It's not a lie. Everything that you're saying is promoting healing at that point because that's what you're standing on. You're not standing on, like you said, oh, I know it all. You're standing on the teach me. Teach me. I want to hear what you have to say. I can share my truth, but let me hear what you have going on. Because I learn from Chuck. I learn from every client that I ever have. I walk away like, wow, that was so cool. Wow, that was amazing. That's important for your authenticity because that means it's working, you know? It's beautiful.
Right.
I'm so grateful for this experience. Thank you, Chuck. I
Absolutely. No, thank
appreciate you.
you. Hey, so one thing came to me, and thank you for that. I was advised to go into my ceremony experience with ayahuasca with three main goals. Like, what do I want to
Mhm.
accomplish out of it? So I've been just letting them come to me as it came to me, and you really helped me come with a really good question for the spirit of ayahuasca. And I wrote down, how do I become the creator and know who I am? So that's gonna be one of my main questions as I go through this experience. I think I describe it in the past as I want to do this because I want to have a deeper knowing.
Mhm.
You just pointed out a good fact that I don't want to go into it with an expectation that isn't met. I'm never going to know everything, but at least I can go into this experience knowing who I am a little bit more and have a deeper knowing of me.
Absolutely. And at the end of the day, you understand that with every growth, we had touched on this. With every growth that you have, you're going to have the tower fall. Your whole existence is going to fall apart. It's going to change. Things are going to happen and you're going to be like, "What in the world?" But then when you get so into it, which you're already there and I know that you're there, that when you begin to have faith and trust that everything is intentionally happened for you and not against you, that when you're asking for that wisdom, they're going to give you the opportunity to learn. So it's gonna it Aya is a feminine medicine plant that when she spoke with me, because I went through it as well, is that it's more such a loving and nurturing way of showing you, but the physical responses that you might endure is that part of, okay, now we're going to flush you so you can really take this all in and learn what you really asked to learn. You're going to get hit from every aspect because when you're asking for that universal, it's mental, emotional, physical, spiritual, it's work, it's home, it's your health, it's all the things. So you're asking a lot in that one question. In
Hmm.
that one question, you've pretty much covered all your bases.
Yeah, you're right. I don't really need to go on with three. This is a good one.
Yeah, you could. I mean, I think that they're asking you to go into more of that detail. Like maybe you could say, why did this happen? Like, why did some of these things happen in my life? Like, teach me the things that have happened, why they've happened ancestrally, maybe that might help promote some healing. But Honestly, 3, 1, whatever, you focus on what it is that you definitely want to learn and make it but as intentionally focused as possible. That way you get the most out of it and you're not limiting it by the detail. Because if you start getting all detailed with, I want a house and I want the house to have red brick and I want this and that, the only thing you're doing is taking away the possibilities of something even better. You know, you just say, I want the safest house. I want the house that's going to promote the best healing for me and my family. Do your best. What is going to be best for me and my family and my life?
Mhm.
That's what I want. Keep it simple and focused. And you're going to get your answers, but you're going to get them in a very imaginative, more of a dreamlike way.
Yeah,
That's the way I
which is
see it.
interesting because one of the ego side of me in my Reiki experiences and even meditation has been this doesn't work because I can't see that movie in my head, right? I haven't experienced getting to that stage of meditation yet, or even when you were doing the Reiki healing of seeing anything, right? It's more words and thoughts. So that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to with ayahuasca is seeing like a lucid story
Where,
under play.
so 2 things. Pay attention to your word, because the can't and the I don't, those are all things that you're spelling into your life and spelling into your consciousness. So ask for what you want. So you can say, I want clarity to be able to understand this, that, and the other. I am working on my imagination. I am working on becoming more creative. That way, you're still saying the same thing, but you're using it in a creative way. It takes work to be intentional with your words.
Mm-hmm.
So that means you have to be mindful, which means you're not impulsive, which means you're very, very concentrated, which once again, I'll attribute back to Asian culture. A lot of the Asian belief systems and philosophies, people are very quiet. They don't talk as much. They listen and then they'll respond with like 2 words that'll just be like, the reason why is because they are very clear in what this is. God is the voice, God is the breath. So when you're putting those words out there, they have more power than you think. And I mean, I do it too. I have to catch myself. But that's the mindfulness and your awareness, your eye. Your eye is not this, your eye is all of your senses. So make sure that you slow down enough to where you're very focused on, how do I want to say this? Because I want to make sure that what I'm saying is very clear, that I want to create good things. I'm in that process. I'm always growing. You're calling all of the positive and you're not claiming any of the lack of.
Fair enough.
With anything. With anything. And the more that you can do that, the more, you know, defined your question will be, the better your experience will be, because what you ask for, you're gonna receive. Do you really want it though? That's the question. You gotta ask for what you want, because if you just say, oh, I want a girlfriend, you'll get a girlfriend, but she might not be great at all. You know what I mean? Like,
Right.
I want a wife, but do you really want this person as your wife? Because you're settling just by saying, I just want a wife, you know?
Yep. Yep. Absolutely. Well, thank you so much for your time, Aaron. It's
Yes.
been awesome. You know,
I look forward to hearing about your experience.
it's always awesome when an hour planned episode turns into 2. I loved it. Ed, did you have anything else for Aaron?
No, just for the viewers and listeners. If you're not watching this, if you're listening to this on audio, the website for Erin is risingwitherin.com. That's ERIN, risingwitherin.com. She's got some information there, and reach out to her for a chat. As Erin said, working remotely can have more power than actually working in person. So don't be afraid to reach out, no matter
Thank you, Ed.
where you
Thank
are
you,
in the
Chuck.
world.
And I'm
I've
taking you up
felt an
when
incredible
I get
amount
to go
of
to
energy
China.
and love
I'm
coming
definitely going to
from
link up with
Erin
you.
this evening. For me, it's
Don't
evening
forget
time
about that.
in
That's
China,
going to
and
happen.
she's in USA. So it just proves the point that energy travels around the world regardless of your location.
I would never doubt that. I would never doubt that. Thank you, both of you guys.
So, Aaron,
Yeah, and
we are
no,
doing
absolutely.
something.
And I'll tell
Well,
you a
at least
secret.
I'm going to throw
Real
it in here and
Chinese food
see how it
tastes
lands.
nothing like what you eat in a
Because
Chinese
Ed
restaurant in the
shared a
USA.
song with me over the last
It's
week
much more
by
delicious.
Disturbed, and he was like, "Dude, listen to these words.
Yeah.
They're really
It's much more
impactful."
delicious.
And this
Okay,
part really
thanks a
stood
lot.
out to
And
me,
thanks.
and I told him, I said, "This should be how we end every single podcast." So here it is. So now go do the best things in life. Bring the fight to this world while you can. Make the most of the rest of your life. Shine your light on the world while you can.